Scientists have found that mice retain memories after their brain shuts down, and nobody fully understands how. A study finds that sacred moments of deep connection at work protect doctors from burnout, and a woman spent decades on dating apps, hired a flirting coach, and found her husband 3 months later. Every day, the news cycle produces roughly 1,000 stories. About 6 of them are about politics, and that's all anybody talks about. I went looking for the rest. This is News Side Quest. A paper published this week in Science, one of the most prestigious scientific journals in the world, is making neuroscientists rethink one of the most fundamental assumptions about how memory works. Artificial hibernation in mice eliminated over half of the hippocampal synapses and reduced neural firing by approximately 70% without impairing memory recall. The hippocampus is the brain's primary memory-forming region. A synapse is the connection between neurons, the physical link across which information passes. The long-standing model of how long-term memory works holds that memories are stored in specific patterns of synaptic connections. Strengthen the right synapses and the memory is there. Weaken or remove them and the memory should go away. Despite this major loss, the mice retained their memories. The researchers found that memory relies not on preserving individual synaptic connections, but on maintaining broader patterns of neural organizations. Those preserved structural motifs may act as a core memory trace, allowing the brain to rebuild functional networks after major disruptions while maintaining stored memories. The researcher quoted by one of the covering journals called this, quote, a remarkable step forward, unquote, because it suggests memories are stored at a higher level of organization than previously understood, not in specific synaptic weights, but in architectural patterns that can survive even when more than half of the physical infrastructure is temporarily gone. This is either very comforting or the plot of a zombie movie franchise. The comforting version, your memories may be more resilient than you think, more resilient to damage, more capable of surviving disruption. The zombie movie version, consciousness and memory appearing in a brain that's largely been shut down is the kind of thing that sounds reassuring in a neuroscience paper and less reassuring in a horror script. The broader implication is that this research joins a growing body of work this year, the near-death experience study, the brain readiness study, the Alzheimer's protein thread, that consistently reveals the brain doing things we didn't think it could. The more we study it, the more capability we find, and the less confident we should probably be about the limits we've assumed we have. What's the question about the human brain or consciousness that you most hope science answers in your lifetime?
It would take decades of work by thousands of scientists in a particle accelerator powered by dump trucks of flaming grant money.
Researchers from the University of Michigan, Lawson Research Institute at St. Joseph's Healthcare London, and multiple collaborating institutions published a comprehensive, evidence-based model this summer in the Journal of General Internal Medicine, building on several years of work into what they call sacred moments in healthcare. Sacred moments are brief periods of time that evoke powerful emotions and/or spiritual qualities of transcendence and boundlessness, as if time stood still, leaving participants with a sense of joy, peace, and empathy for the others involved. The research finds that both experiencing sacred moments frequently and discussing them with colleagues are associated with significantly less burnout. 2/3 of physicians surveyed reported experiencing a sacred moment with a patient. Both experiencing sacred moments often and discussing them with colleagues were associated with less burnout. Here's the detail I found most interesting. In one survey of about 600 physicians, most who recalled a sacred moment said they felt less burned out afterwards, yet fewer than 5% had ever mentioned that moment to a colleague. The thing that eased their stress mostly stayed locked away just for them. The practical intervention the researchers are proposing is sacred moment rounds, dedicated structural time during which clinical teams create space to share these moments with each other. Research suggests sacred moments can help alleviate stress and burnout by reminding them why they became doctors, nurses, social workers, and providers in the first place. This is actually a pretty good idea for any line of work, not just medicine. It's about reconnecting with purpose and meaning through the specific moments when your work felt most real. What I find most interesting is the silence finding. The very thing protecting clinicians from burning out is sitting in their memories unexpressed and benefiting nobody at all. They've experienced it, it helped them, and they never told a colleague about it. Just talking about it costs nothing and takes only minutes. The barrier appears to be cultural. Healthcare culture, like most professional cultures, isn't built for sharing moments of transcendent with your team over coffee. So what's your strategy for not burning out, and is there a specific moment from your work, the thing that you did it for, that you haven't shared with anybody at this point?
Doctor? 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 Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor? Doctor? Doctor? Doctor? Doctor? Doctor? Doctor? Doctor? Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor? Doctor? Doctor? Doctor? And doctor. Well, we miss anyone?
Elizabeth Lang is 49 years old, lives in Greenwich, London, and owned a coffee shop there. She spent decades on dating apps. She said, "I had awful dates, terrible boyfriends, and horrible situationships." And slowly she began to realize she was the problem. She says, "I was too scared to talk to attractive people, and I was addicted to chaotic relationships." So she hired a flirting coach, which is apparently a thing. The workshop her coach ran started in an art gallery. She said, quote, "In our first workshop, the flirting coach made us walk through the National Gallery and start conversations with 3 different strangers. She taught us how to smile with your mouth open. It made me look like I was snarling. I was getting funny looks. Then came the grocery store. She made Elizabeth walk around Tesco and choose 3 men from 3 different aisles to ask about products they were looking at. She said, quote, "I went around the carrot aisle and I asked a man, 'What are you making with your carrots?' He answered and then wandered off. Over time, something shifted. Soon, Elizabeth found the joy in talking to strangers. She said it became easy. It became like breathing. There was a turning point where I just felt like a natural doing it." She set herself a goal, find a husband in 3 months. She met Owen, 50, not long after. 2 years later, they were engaged. So what certification does a flirting coach need? Turns out, flirting coaching exists in an informal space alongside life coaching, dating coaching, and social skills introduction. No standardized credential, no licensing body, and widely varying approaches. Some practitioners have backgrounds in therapy or psychology, others are experienced daters who turn their approach into a curriculum. What Elizabeth's experience actually was, underneath the coaching label, is what the research on dating recession and social anxiety has been documenting pretty much all year. She had a confidence problem and a skills gap in exactly the areas most likely to determine dating outcomes: starting conversations, reading signals, sustaining eye contact, being present with a stranger. Her coach gave her structured practice in a low-stress environment until things became automatic. That's behavioral skills training, and it has a solid empirical foundation regardless of what you actually call it. The Dating Recession Survey found 74% of single women hadn't dated in the past year, with the biggest barrier being a lack of self-confidence and social skills. Elizabeth's story is the practical demonstration of the exact solution that research implies. Not better apps, not lower prices, not a different attitude towards love, but deliberate, structured, in-person practice, talking to strangers in grocery stores until it becomes as natural as breathing. What's the most unconventional idea or approach that has actually worked for you in any area of life? The thing that should have seemed silly, but actually ended up working?
Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today.
A Pennsylvania family searching for seashells on the seashore found a megalodon tooth instead. The tooth belonged to the prehistoric giant shark that went extinct approximately 3.5 million years ago. They were seeking seashells on the seashore and found something considerably more significant.
That belongs in a museum!
Social media influencers were attacked by sharks while attempting to take selfies with them in what appears to be an ongoing pattern of extremely poor risk assessment. I can't believe I have to say this, but maybe don't take selfies with sharks. Chief Brody was unavailable for comment.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
NASA has found a way to keep Voyager 2 alive in deep space by tapping into a reserve power supply previously kept as a backup, extending the probe's operational lifespan for at least another 3 years. Voyager 2 is currently more than 12 billion miles from Earth. If we learned anything from Star Trek the Motion Picture, it's that you want to keep track of your Voyager spacecraft.
How quaint.
A woman in New Zealand died, was resuscitated, and came back to life, and then she received a parking ticket for the car she'd left while she was briefly dead. The ticketing authority ultimately voided the fine, acknowledging that feeding the meter is difficult when someone is performing chest compressions on you. Seems like a reasonable call on their part.
Not to mention the fact that you're talking to a dead guy!
That's it for New Side Quest. 3 questions out there for you to noodle over. The question about the brain or consciousness you most hope science answers in your lifetime. Your strategy for not burning out and whether there's a moment from your work you've never shared. And the most unconventional thing that has actually worked for you. Email me at newsidequest@gmail.com or visit the Substack comments. See you tomorrow.